girls of all ages, over 18 of course, because that's how it goes on my channel. Welcome, thanks for joining us. Today my guest is the very lovely Jess Randle, isn't it? That was what it was, Jess Randle, got it right, very good. Who is a person who has come across this crazy way of eating, this crazy way of living, this carnivore diet, and obviously it's been dreadful for her. I mean, look, she's just looks to be in terrible state of health. Obviously, she died about 3 or 4 years ago from scurvy, and nobody told her. And the constipation that she's supposed to experience because she's no longer eating fiber. Actually, that's one of the things that came right, isn't it, Jess, when you decided to go carnivore? Tell us your whole story. I'm talking too much. It's your turn. Tell us all about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And I started carnivore January 2020 for World Carnivore Month after my husband showed me the Joe Rogan, Sean Baker podcast. And then after that, I kind of loved it, experienced great results, and I kind of went off the rails a little, and now I'm pretty strict and am seeing better results than I did in the beginning. But I did carnivore to try to lose weight because I was working out constantly, like 6 days a week, 7 days a week, doing heavy lifting, tons of cardio. I was eating healthy, but not losing any weight and getting really frustrated. So my husband started researching for me because he's much smarter than me. And I didn't realize that there were answers out there for me. I thought that was just how it was. I thought that was just the cards that life dealt me. So he showed me the podcast and I was like, I might as well try it because nothing else has worked. And that it worked, obviously.
Okay. So tell us what you were experiencing. What were the problems that life was throwing at you, and how have they responded to this carnivore diet?
So before I was carnivore, I was gluten-free for 10 years. But like I said, I was still experiencing some issues, like I couldn't lose weight. I would still get digestive issues. I had acne. I had really severe mood swings and anger issues. And before I was gluten-free, for about almost 19 years of my life, I had the same issues, but I had like even worse constipation. I was going to the bathroom like once every about 3 to 4 weeks, and cutting out gluten really helped, but I still had issues with digestion and acne and like mental health and stuff like that. And it wasn't until carnivore that all of those things resolved.
Okay. So how quickly was this resolution? How soon did you realize, hey, this might be an answer?
That month, World Carnivore Month, January 2020, my life, my body, my mind did a complete 180 to the point where I was convinced that that was how humans are supposed to eat. And the only reason I started to deviate again after that month was from social pressures. And I started to have like cheat meals on the weekend and brought back in alcohol and ice cream and stuff like that. And the longer I did that, the more my health issues started to come back. And I realized, I really need to be strict with this. I can't deviate. I have to be strict. So about a year ago, I put my foot down and said, no, I'm doing this for me. This is what's best for me. And as long as I stay on carnivore, I don't have any problems.
Okay. So what does your diet look like now? When you say strict carnivore, how is that made up? Give us a typical idea of that.
So my diet, what I consider, I guess, strict carnivore, because I know there's a lot of conflicting things, is I eat meat, animal products, eggs, and like dairy, like butter and heavy cream. I have some cheese, but I don't typically eat a lot of cheese. The only time I really eat cheese is if I'm doing a video for my YouTube channel, because a lot of the we cook carnivore recipes, and a lot of the recipes require cheese. So that's the only time that I'll incorporate cheese. But other than that, it's just like meat, butter, heavy cream.
Okay. And are you one of these folks that is into the organs, or is it mostly muscle meat?
I like liver. I do eat liver occasionally. I try to eat it about once a week. I have frozen raw liver in my freezer, and I'll just like snack on a few pieces. But other than that, I don't eat other organs, just liver, and not too often.
Right. Okay. And what's your standpoint on the level at which meat should be cooked or not cooked?
So I've never had raw beef or anything like that, just raw liver. So I don't really know how it would affect me personally. I do follow the raw meat experiment guy, and I think that's really interesting that he hasn't gotten sick at all from the raw meat that he's eating. So I wouldn't be opposed to trying raw meat, but I don't know if I would eat exclusively raw meat. I don't know if I could be that hardcore about it.
Right. I know I couldn't. It's an idea that doesn't appeal to me. I have tried bits and bobs of the odd raw thing here and there. Most of it was okay. But no, I wouldn't sit down to a plate of raw steak or anything like that. That wouldn't appeal to me. I think our bodies have a really good idea of what they want and what individually is ideal for us. So I kind of follow my instinct a bit. What's your feeling on the argument that you'll hear people saying that as soon as you cook meat that it destroys the nutrient and all of that? And what's your take on that?
Well, I would say that that's probably not 100% accurate, because I've been eating cooked meat for 2 years now, and I'm healthier than I've ever been, so I'm getting some nutrients out of it. So I don't think that the answer is necessarily you have to eat raw meat to get these nutrients, because clearly people are getting nutrients from cooked meat.
Perfect answer. Couldn't have come up with anything better myself. In fact, that's the answer I use when people say to me, don't you know that if you cook the meat, it destroys the nutrients? I say, well, in that case, I should have died about 6.5 years ago, because I'm about 7 years into an almost exclusively carnivore diet. And, I should well have run into a problem by now. Much like you probably did, Jess. You probably died about a year and a half ago of scurvy, didn't you?
Yes, I died, and then my husband put some raw steak in my mouth, and I was reincarnated.
Excellent. Lucky. He really is smart, isn't he? Is he watching? Yes. Is that why you're calling him smart? Hello, husband.
He's outside stunning. He's tanning in the sun, getting some vitamin D.
Good. Yes, I remember sun. We have that 6 months of the year as well here. Only it's not this 6 months. It's very early springtime now, and it's just starting to thaw a bit and feel like, oh, maybe we'll get some sun. And yeah, we myself and my lovely partner, we spend a lot of time in the summer sunning. And we start sensibly, of course. We don't go straight to it because, you don't want to get sunburned or anything like that. But I find it really interesting. Do you find, since going carnivore, that you just don't get burned in the sun? Because that's something I've heard people say.
Yeah, actually, I can go out in the sun and I just kind of tan. Recently, my dog was really sick, and I had to walk to the vet because I live in Japan right now, so I don't have a Japanese license. So I had to walk to the vet, and it was about a 9-mile round trip. And it's hot here in Okinawa, and the sun is intense. And I made that trip a few times, just like in a tank top and no sunglasses or anything, and I just tanned, and it amazed me. So I definitely have gotten that side effect of carnivore of, I guess, flushing the seed oils out of my system and not burning in the sun so easily.
Yeah, exactly that. But also it kind of amazes me that we have this idea that, you know, we must now all wear sunscreen when, I mean, sunscreen's been around less than 100 years, really, hasn't it? And people have been out in the sun and spending hours and hours and hours out in the sun for, well, at least 350,000 years that we've been humans. And suddenly sunburn is only really a thing that we've experienced in the last sort of 100 years or so while we've been adding seed oils to our diet. What's your take on that? Have you done some looking behind into some of the mechanisms of that with the seed oils and how they might be involved in that process, or is that not something you've looked at?
I haven't looked into it extensively. Like when I heard about it, it made sense to me. I didn't research any further. It just seemed like another one of those things where it was a light bulb moment where we're like, oh, yeah, that's only been around for a fraction of the time. Why do we all of a sudden need it? Why do humans all of a sudden need to protect themselves from the sun when we've never had to in the past? To me, it's like the same argument with like lab-grown meat. Like all of a sudden we can't eat cows because they're causing climate change, but for all of our past we were able to, and they were amazing for the planet. But now all of a sudden we need all these man-made things because all these man-made things are going to cure all our problems, when all these problems kind of just started when we were trying to do that. So it just seems like another one of those arguments where, if you kind of peel it back, is probably money motivated and not actually morally motivated for trying to produce better results or a better earth or anything like that.
I think you're onto something there. I was going to say myself that it's almost as if there are people with a vested financial interest in getting us away from living natural lives that we have always done in balance with nature, and now suddenly we're all out of whack with being out of whack with balance with nature, and we're sick and we're fat and we have diabetes and we have heart disease and we're beholden to a medical model and we're under the control of the powers that be and the elites, and you know, all of these things are going, it's almost as if people have got an interest in us not doing well in some way. Yeah, interesting that you live on the island of Okinawa in the so-called blue zone. Have you looked into the blue zone idea about Okinawa and other places? Is that something you've looked at and have something to say about?
Yeah, so as far as I understand about the blue zone, especially in Okinawa, is that a lot of the data was kind of fudged, and a lot of the records here, like birth certificate records and stuff like that, weren't extremely accurate, and people would just kind of assume their age or their relative's age and things like that. So that's my understanding of it, that it's not extremely accurate. And then I do know here they do eat a lot of meat, a lot of pork too, especially in Okinawa. A lot of carbohydrates and sugar, but they do eat plenty of meat, and they're very active here. You can walk down the street or you can go somewhere, tons of people biking, running, walking, gardening. The Okinawan people are very, very active, even into their old age.
Yep. So there you go, you blue zone people who say Okinawans have a vegan lifestyle. They don't. Lie.
No.
They eat a lot of pork. Always have done, even more before the war. Actually, many of the pigs on the island were wiped out during the war, and it took quite a few years post-war for those pigs to be replaced with mainland pigs that had to be imported in, etc. There are many things that Okinawans do differently to the mainland cousins. They are, as Jess said, far more active. Is it true what they say about social cohesion there? Are they much more, family oriented and much more, the access to technology, less screen time? Is that true?
Yeah, here it is crazy because we did go to mainland recently. We went to Tokyo, and the culture is just completely different between mainland and Okinawa. Okinawa is more like island life, chill. People, even the clothes are more relaxed, and everyone, you can go to a park or go somewhere and it's just filled with families on the weekends. Kids like running around catching butterflies. Like I even said to my husband, we went to a park one day because it was next to a museum we were going to, and I said to him that it felt like the 90s in America, like the America from the 90s. Like I grew up in the 90s before 9/11, before things just started going off the rails, and it just felt safe. It was just family oriented. You could ride your bike around town and your parents didn't worry about you. And that's how it feels here in Okinawa. It's just like, it's a different culture, and it's relaxed, and people don't seem to be stressed out. Everyone's super nice. And then in mainland, it's like the rat race. Like everyone has their like business suits on, at least in the part of Tokyo we were in, and they're just walking to work, getting on the subway, going to work, going out to eat at night and drinking with their friends, and then doing it all over the next day.
Complying all over the place with the mass psychosis that seems to be rife in many, not just Western societies, but some of the more Eastern societies as well, clearly. Fascinating insights into that. Thank you for confirming what I have said many times on my channel about the so-called blue zone of Okinawa. It's almost as if the guy that published that idea, Dan Buettner was the bloke's name, or is the bloke's name, he's still with us. A lot of people don't realize he's a journalist, not a scientist of any repute or note at all, no scientific training. He's a journalist, basically, who is trying or was trying to sell a story. That's what journalists do. And so he made a bunch of stuff up, actually, to suit the people that were giving him money to tell them what they wanted to hear, that being that the Okinawans are living to be 507, which they're not, and that they eat nothing but plants, which is not true. So, yeah, all good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So what else do we need to talk about today? What else? Go on.
I hope you don't have an aversion to journalists. I'm in school right now for journalism and mass communication, so I'll try to be one of the good ones.
Okay, no, I have no aversions to people on the basis of their occupation necessarily at all. I mean, there's nothing wrong with journalists inherently. Many obviously have succumbed and are licking the lollipop of the accepted narrative. I just hope that you won't end up being one of those. It's difficult. It really is difficult. Society has changed, as you've alluded to. Society has changed massively in the last, well, let's face it, in the last 3 years alone. Society has completely changed and reformed into something completely other than what it's been even hitherto that. It's amazing to me when I hear people talk about, things like, I grew up in the 90s, you said, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so old. I'm so old. Dear, oh dear, dear, oh dear. All right, so what else do we need to talk about today? What else do you want to tell us about the carnivore diet or any experiences of that? Is it something that you would promote to others? Do you have social media accounts that you need people to know about? Where do people find you? Give us all of that kind of summation.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that surprised me the most about carnivore is definitely just the mental health aspect of it. Of just, I'm feel like a completely different person now, and I'm able to control my emotions, and I don't have severe mood swings. because my family has a history of mental issues. So I thought that was just like a genetic thing. So it blew my mind that carnivore helped so much with that. And I am on social media. I have a YouTube channel with my friend Serena where we make like carnivore recipes called Carnivore Revolution. And I have an Instagram, and it's just my name. It's jesslyn.randle. And I make a lot of fun reels on there and love meeting carnivores and chatting with carnivores. So, yeah.
Awesome. We will make sure to get all of those details and put them in the show notes so that people can click on those directly. And they will, won't you, my good Meat Militia soldiers? Those are your orders from your Field Marshal, yours truly, this very bad bald man. Go immediately and subscribe to all of Jess's stuff and comment there, and make sure that you share the love with her so that her channel can grow and expand and become powerful, because that's how we all become powerful as a society, when we work together and we use our power together and we stand shoulder to shoulder and we link arms and we say no. We look these bastards in the eye and we say no. Come and get it. You want to take meat off us? Come and get it. We will defend it. So we shall, yes. At least I will here in New Zealand, and Jess will in the sunny island of Okinawa off the coast of Japan. And as will many of the people we'll be talking to this week. Jeez, it's a busy week this week. I've got like interviews stacked one after the other with carnivores from all over the place. And of course, it's not a chore at all. It's great to talk to people from all walks of life, doing all sorts of things, who have worked out that the appropriate way to eat is carnivore. I do want to also acknowledge the mental health aspect of it. I think it's something that doesn't get enough attention. Everyone's banging on about, I lost weight, I dealt with my constipation, I dealt with my skin conditions, blah, 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 blah. And that stuff's great, and it's fantastic, and all of it's true. But I too come from a place of very poor mental health on a standard, even on a ketogenic approach, actually, to life. Pretty much almost any amount of the material that causes chronic systemic inflammation tends to express itself in my body as chronic systemic inflammation, and my mental health goes off the rails very, very quickly. You would seem to be of a similar kind of person, Jess. I would suggest there is a genetic component to how much tolerance to self-abuse people have between them. So if it runs in your family, it is more likely that you won't get away with it as well. But you have the power now, you have the knowledge, you have the experience, you've seen what a carnivore diet can do for mental health, as have I, and I would sing that song from the rooftops. I had like very serious bipolar. I had very, very serious anxiety disorders. I was even agoraphobic for a year, believe it or not. So, you know, being a social media influencer, having a YouTube channel, behaving the way I do online, carrying on the way I do, absolutely out of the question, even, 7 years ago when I started this carnivore diet. So, yeah, absolutely, I'll endorse those comments. I want to thank you very, very much for your time today, Jess. I appreciate it so much. It is great, as I say, to talk to as many people as we possibly can, to get the message out there that it's a real thing and people are experiencing the benefits of it all over the place in all sorts of ways. So with that in mind, you're the guest of honor, so we'll leave the closing words to you. Tell us how you want to close off, really.
Okay, I would say that don't just listen to people online without doing your own research. That's one thing that I really, really always advise people or suggest to people is don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Go look it up for yourself and learn things on your own, because that makes a world of difference. So yeah, research, look into it, and it'll help build your confidence too when people try to challenge you.
Very, very wise. Very, very wise. Always check your sources. You're going to do well as a journalist, I would say, and as long as you keep your integrity, Things bode well. I couldn't have said that better myself. And what I heard you say there, I think, was that absolutely what you should do is accept absolutely everything said by the one true authority on nutrition, and that is Field Marshal Lord Dr. Bart, WTK, by subscribing to his fine channel, and absolutely don't question anything he has to say under any circumstances, because that's hate speech.
Of course, that is exactly what I meant.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought you'd say. Hey, look, thanks again, Jess. I really have enjoyed it. Appreciate your time, and yep, hopefully we'll talk again soon. If people want to see more of Jess or any of my other guests this week, because there are lots of them, do let me know in the comments underneath the video. Make sure you comment under there for Al Gore. He loves his rhythms, Al Gore. And you know, maybe if people are keen to see Jess come back for a live session, for example, they'll say, yes, please bring her back, and I'll try and twist her arm.
That'd be awesome. I'd be down.
Awesome. Cool. Good to know. All right. See you next time, boys and girls. Thanks for joining us. Don't let the door hit you in the backside on the way out, and enjoy what you're doing for the rest of your day. See you then.